Hello and welcome to another episode of, and this is where Wes's eyes are fixed on me now, My Surrogacy Journey, the Mexico City.
Usually I just say it.
Let me try it again. Come on.
Then go.
So welcome to another episode 19 of the Mexico City edition of My Surrogacy Journey, the podcast.
Yay,
yeah, we did it.
Second time. It's like this recurring thing where Michael can never get it right, and I'm such a stickler for consistency.
I was starting to get a bit hot because I can feel him looking at me.
Welcome to My Surrogacy Journey, the Mexico City.
And we're in Dublin.
We are in Dublin. We've got some amazing guests and we're going to introduce you to them in a second, but we couldn't get schedules to work. It's been, the people that we're going to talk to in a second, they're as busy as we are and there's lots of conflicting schedules. So we managed to sync schedules, but it just happened to be in Dublin and we are not complaining about being here in Dublin. We're really looking forward to it. Dublin is a very special place for us. We spent a lot of time here. So it's something that we need no excuse to travel to Dublin.
Not at all. So for those of you that are new and that are listening, I am Michael. I am one of the founders here at My Surrogacy Journey and I'm married to this man to my right.
And I'm Wes. I'm the other co-founder and your host today. And I'm delighted to welcome two amazing guests. We have a partnership with them and they are from Victory Reproductive Care. So we've got Dr. Victory and we've got Lisa who manage their program there. Hi guys, welcome and thank you for coming all the way to Dublin to be on our podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us here. It's an honor and a pleasure.
You've literally just got off a flight as well, haven't you?
Pretty much, yeah.
You're looking fresh,
Oh,
considering,
you.
Doctor.
Yeah,
you are
yeah.
looking fresh.
It's amazing what a good shower can do. So.
It just wakes you up amazingly, doesn't it? And how long are you in Dublin for? Because I know that you're going back to the UK to see your wife and daughter, right?
That's right, yeah. So my daughter's studying medicine in Scotland now, and so I'm going to hop over there, but I'll be back in Dublin by Sunday, and then I'm leaving Monday.
Amazing. And Lisa, you've been here a week, right? So you're very acclimatized in the time zone and practically a Dubliner.
Yes, well, absolutely yes. I've had some time to adjust and take in some of the sights, and it's been amazing.
And we're gonna want to hear your Dublin accent in a minute. No, we're not really at all.
Only your Dublin accent. Wesley's not good at.
So look, I am not going to do justice kind of introing you. So why don't you give us a bit of an overview, both of you, what you do, where you're from, and Rahi and Dr. Victory, the work you do, because, we've been following and been partnered for a while. You're doing some amazing work over in Canada, but not just for Canadian IPs, you support intended parents all over the globe, right?
That's right. So we have a full service reproductive endocrinology and infertility clinic in Ontario, and we now have several satellite clinics as well. And our goal was always to develop a program where we could really service the needs of anyone from anywhere. And we have become very global in large part thanks to this amazing lady next to me, where we have traveled around the world to help individuals, whether they're same-sex or heterosexual couples who need third-party services. So in large part, people who need an egg donor or a surrogate. And we really try and individualize everyone's care and make sure that we're attending to each specific person's needs, because I think that really gets lost these days. A lot of fertility clinics or agencies are very much doing what we call cookie cutter medicine, where you show up and you're kind of put into this process and they really feel like they're just put through a grinder and they come out, damaged at the end of it. And we really wanted to create something very different from that. So I kind of had the vision, and then I had enough foresight to get an incredible partner. And so Lisa has really taken that vision and turned it into what we really wanted it to be and more. So she's instrumental in all this, and it's worked out brilliantly. We have literally hundreds of families that we've helped, and we're really proud of the work that we're doing.
Amazing. Because we know that everyone comes from, approaches surrogacy from a very different place, and there's no one size fits all for everyone, right? And you're right, it is about having that individual care, because that's what they need. They need you to look at what are the components and how can you potentially help them, because there are lots of different ones, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of choice now. There's choice in terms of which clinic you're going to work with, which doctor you're going to work with, which agencies are you going to work with. And a big part of it now, especially being in Ireland, is are you going to need an altruistic model, or can you pay for the services depending on where you're from and where you're planning to take your child back to. So our big advantage is being in Canada, we have an altruistic system. So that appeals to a lot of people for a variety of reasons, some legal, some just personal. And so I think that offers a really sort of significant competitive advantage for us. But at the same time, we've taken that and really couched it in an environment where we're doing our best to individualize the needs of everybody. And it's really important to us to make sure people feel cared for rather than, here's my money, where's my baby?
Yeah. And we're seeing so much of that at the minute, and whether it's targeted ads or certain strategies that other agencies or organizations or even sometimes clinics may have. But I think the approach of which you guys take, and I think why this new partnership is going to work so well, is because it's aligned to the needs of intended parents and being mindful and just really appreciating that the humanistic side of this journey and just how huge this process is for people. It's not just the cookie cutter. It's a quite often a very long process for a lot of people.
Well, it's about building relationships. At the forefront, right? What are your goals and your timelines? But it's an emotional, very involved, invested journey, and the people that are in that journey with you. The relationship matters, and developing those authentic relationships is one of the reasons why I think we're lucky to have success. I think that piece of it, which goes with the cookie cutter part, we know what you want, we're authentic, and so are the relationships we build with our RPs.
Yeah. And I say this to a lot of intended parents, if you're going to work with us, and like with you, this is a long-term relationship. This can be a 2-3 year relationship. This is not something that you just it's a really short, quick in and out. This is, you're going to build relationships. You have to have the confidence. You have to have the trust. You have to know that they're going to work in your best interests and do what's right for you, and you can't always see that in a lot of other organizations or a lot of other clinics that don't have that same focus, right?
Well, especially when you look at sibling journeys, depending on the goals of the IPs and the families we work with. But when you think of the end context of a sibling journey, we're now 4, 5, 6 years. And we love getting pictures of babies that we've helped that are along, further down, show us the 1-year birthday party pictures, show us, and so on and so forth. And one of our families in Ireland just had their sibling journey a week ago. So it's amazing to see that. And when you talk about building relationships, it's not short term.
No. So Lisa, let's you introduce yourself, because I had the pleasure of spending some time with you a couple of months back in Mexico, got to know you. I think, again, we're very, very much aligned in our approach and our ethics and our, what our core being is, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a labor and delivery nurse by training. And I think that's also one of the reasons why the relationship with VRC, with Dr. Victory, has also flourished, is because being in labor and delivery in our local hospital, I've known Dr. Victory that entire time. So the relationship is more than just that. So I spent the first 20 years of my medical career delivering babies. And then my passion has shifted from delivering babies to helping people make babies. And I get to do that with a team that is amazing and who feel the same way about their work. And then, of course, with Dr. Victory, who allows me to have so much autonomy, which is scary sometimes. But because I come from things from, I'm also a mom of 4. And so, to see people build a family and help them do that, it genuinely makes me very, very happy. And it's where my passions come from. I'm lucky to be able to do it.
And she's selling herself a little short here. Lisa is an incredible people person, which has led to why in large part, our program has been so successful, is that we really want to foster those connections you guys were just talking about earlier. And in order to do that, you need to be available, you need to be personable, you have to develop those relationships, the trust that you mentioned. And so, again, Lisa's been instrumental in having that and being kind of the captain of the team, so to speak, for our third party. And then also making sure everyone else that's part of the team, sort of has the same type of attitude and the same approach. And that's really been a founding kind of part of what we've done. And we want to continue that.
Okay. Amazing. So the podcast today really is focused on helping those. So let me do that again. So the podcast today really is focused on the relationship that we have with you, with My Surrogacy Journey and you guys, and what that looks like in terms of how we can help people navigate through that. So Michael, let's talk a little bit about, when we first started having those conversations about the relationship and really what that relationship looks like and how that transcribes into the reality.
Yeah, and we've known Dr. Victory for quite a while now, since MSJ was first formed, and when we started to notice the number of British IP start to reduce going to Canada, that kind of prompted the call, because we had that conversation about what seems to be changing in the market, because the number of British people coming to Canada was changing. So we had that telephone call and started having the conversation about what our Mexico program was looking like and why we created it. And one of those main advantages there was for people that were looking to do international surrogacy, since Ukraine and Georgia was obviously closed and not recommended. What other ethical solutions were there? And with Canada having the issues that Canada was having from a surrogate point of view, what was the solution? And that was always one of the great things we've always had. We can always speak quite openly and honestly about what we're doing. And I remember that conversation quite clearly. And it was the beginning of creating this brand new hybrid relationship that we've now got. This is brand new, to the level of which it's executed. No one is doing it to this level. And we were really pleased that it would be with VRC that we'd be doing with it first, because it's
needed. And I think it's, as one of the things that I know that we're all very much aligned on, it's about giving people choice, right? Mm-hmm. And we know that you have, a number of intended parents who have created embryos with you with the intention of doing a journey in Canada, but that just isn't working for them from a time frame point of view, and they're kind of stuck in this holding pattern of waiting for, the potential to be matched with a surrogate. And for some people, that's been a long road, hasn't it? And for some people, they're getting more and more impatient. And they're, we all know that people, when they are at surrogacy, there's a whole range. Some people, if they're heterosexual, they're typically a little bit older because they've been on a challenging fertility journey. So they don't really have time on their side sometimes. And I think for us, seeing the ability then to give people access to a different route that they, typically might not have anticipated, but the reality is that now they need to find potentially another solution. And it was about and is about how can we give your patients access to a pathway in Mexico where they can do an embryo transfer in, with you guys as they originally planned, and then we can have the remainder of their journey, hopefully once there's a confirmed pregnancy, through the Mexico route. And we're calling it the hybrid because it is a hybrid of both. And then I think also, Lisa, we're talking about also the potential that if they have embryos with you and they want to then cryo transport them over to Mexico, that's an option as well.
Yeah, so I think the key was to have the awareness and take advantage of our amazing system that we have already in place in Canada, and like the way that we operate VRC as well. So creating the embryo part of the journey is not where the time delay is. Typically, we can absolutely meet the needs of people who are looking for an egg donor. I would say 99% of the time. You get sometimes where there's some very unique requirements where that's not the case. But the beauty of this program with the hybrid element of it is because they can do that egg donor journey quickly and safely, and then have embryos. And the time and the money that they save doing the first half of their journey in Canada using the Canadian system, then the second half can go quicker And then there is a little bit more funds available for the second half of the journey because our programs are very reasonably priced, and it's the Canadian system. It's altruistic. So it really is a beautiful hybrid program for those people that say, now I want the surrogate journey to start now.
Yeah. And look, it might not be for everyone, right?
No,
you know,
of
we have
course.
to be really clear about
But it's that choice element.
Again, it's choice.
Right. And looking even from a cost perspective, the current pricing for Canada is not really that far off from what it is now with what you guys have created. So using My Surrogacy Journey and the Mexico hybrid program with us, you're really almost on par with what you're paying in Canada. So that's no longer an issue. I mean, we also offer, the option for patients to use US surrogates, but you're looking at easily double the cost. And so it's a really great opportunity here because we can get what we need for our clients quickly, safely, but they don't have to wait, and they're not losing anything in the meantime. So that's what really attracted us.
And when we were building it, we were both. I remember we were both sat at the office in our home office, and we were building this ethically and sensibly. This wasn't about, okay, how much money can we make from this pathway? This was about, this is a very cost conscious group of patients, and we need to make sure that this is on budget to what their Canadian journey was going to be. Not really too much more, and let's bring that in, because it was like how we worked the UK program. It's a cost-conscious group of IPs.
And I remember us having conversations, Doctor, about what's important here is that we can make it accessible from a financial point of view. And we worked really hard between us to try and get everything to a place where we could make it work, because we know that those intended parents went to Canada primarily cost-driven, didn't they? And that's one of the main drivers why they went there. So trying to create a pathway which was comparable to that hopefully makes a decision easier for them, because they don't then have to worry about what that looks like from a cost point of view.
It's a lot of cost and a lot of ethics. And I think that's where we found that we had, enough similarities and common ground to be able to create this. So that's what we loved about it too. Yeah, it was the fact that we were working with an ethical group who wanted to facilitate the journey for their families and help those individuals achieve their goals. In an environment where we're protecting everybody. We're protecting the clients, we're protecting the surrogates, we're not taking advantage of anyone. And that the goal was not, as you said, to make an extra couple of bucks. The goal was to help people.
Yeah.
And that's what we're all about, and that's what you guys are all about. So it's a great fit. We're really pleased about that part.
Yeah, and I think it's about, I'm really excited because I know we're going to work really closely together to get everything in place to make it as smooth for everyone. This is not just about you hand them over to us and then you're done. This relationship continues back and forth, and we are very much aligned about how we're going to manage that relationship to the benefit of everyone involved in the process.
Yeah, and I mean, Wes, we had, the fortunate amount of time to sit and chat, when I did visit Mexico. But as Rahi was saying at the beginning, and I definitely feel very strongly about building the relationships in the beginning. So if the handoff or partners that you choose to work with are not people that you're aligned with, for me, it also damages that reputation, because if I'm sending them to somebody that I don't feel are aligned the way they do work and ethically, it really just reflects us. And that's something I'm not okay with.
Totally. And I know would honestly say that's the same for us, because we've worked bloody hard over the last 4 years developing My Surrogacy Journey, and all our partnerships have to be authentic, they have to be transparent. We need to all have a common goal and an interest here. And clearly we do, which is good.
And I think I like the word transparency that you just used as well, because, in no way, shape, or form are we saying that, we believe every single moment and element of the journey is going to go perfect, and we're all just always celebrating. I mean, it's a complex, complicated journey. But what's important is to be transparent and communicate, and let's celebrate the wins and let's work together through the lows. Because
that's when they need us most.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So it's not, it's not this is going to be easy and perfect, but it will be authentic and it will be transparent and you'll be supported throughout the journey, right? I think those are the key elements.
For sure.
Doctor, tell us a little bit about why people work with you. Why do people choose VRC? Why do they particularly choose you? I mean, I've spoken to some of your patients, so I know that already, but tell us so that the people listening or people watching can understand that.
How much time do we have?
Yeah, let's keep it. Bullet points, please.
Yeah. Well, maybe no. So
you had brains on.
Or all the multiple.
You have a reputation globally, right? And I know that because I'm speaking with some intended parents who are based in the UK who specifically wanted to work with you in Canada, right? And that's because of your reputation. Just give us a bit of an overview on that.
So I think there's some things we do really well and that we focus on. So we focus a lot on communication, making sure that is incredibly well developed so that we are accessible, we're reachable. Again, we're transparent and that we are always there for the individuals who need us. So I think communication is really key. So we use every mode possible. I mean, I think half of Europe has my WhatsApp number now. Email, WhatsApp, Zoom, FaceTime, whatever it is, text messaging. Myself and my team are all available all the time and constantly communicating. I think I also spend a lot of time on education, making sure that the patients actually understand the whole process. I've spoken to a lot of patients and I always ask for feedback when I'm done with a consultation. And I say, was this useful for you? And almost universally, they'll say, this was way better than anything they had before, because I'll spend 45 minutes going over the process, talking about the pitfalls, talking about the highs and the lows, making sure they understand legitimate timelines and a realistic overview of costs and all of that. Whereas they'll say, they waited 2 hours for the other doctor from clinic XYZ and they had 10 minutes with them. And it's just kind of, yeah, we're the best, come join us, and we're done. And we really never wanted to put that foot forward. We wanted more for people to feel that they wanted to work with us because they're comfortable with us. And then the last piece, of course, is success. So, everyone I say can talk a good game, but if you're not good at what you do, it's not going to go very far. So we have just recently analyzed our statistics, and we're getting very, very high rates with just one embryo. It's right now at 85.7%. Yeah, so we're really, really pleased. And Lisa doesn't even know this yet, but yeah, exclusive. So we just got our national data set out, and they break it down into quartiles, and we're in the top quartile. So yeah, so very, very good news for us, and we were really pleased. Thank you. Yeah, so I think those three elements have always been really key. And I think because we communicate, because we spend the time to educate, and I think those things really resonate with the patients. And then when you have the stats to back it up, it's kind of an easy choice, I think, for a lot of people.
So, not that I would typically do this, but I need to add something because I think now you're selling yourself short, which because I think that there's two other elements that I really feel like I need to bring up. So one of them is his criteria. So I say his because the criteria out there, they're set. There's guidelines that are there, and most clinics and industry will follow those. Dr. Victory's criteria are a little bit more strict, but he does that because of the outcome, the desired outcome. So I think like sometimes on paper, somebody might see, oh no, that clinic, the criteria is too strict. They're not looking at it from, it's not because we don't want to be accepting to have somebody in the program at part of that journey. It's because we want the success on the other end. Sometimes in the beginning though, when you think the journey is so far away, it's hard to really appreciate. But if you're going to make, a good pasta sauce. You need to start with the best ingredients. Okay. So it's that.
This is the Italian coming out now, Nisa, isn't it? I knew it was going to come out at some point.
She's a fabulous very Italian.
But any food analogy,
Italian. And I'm supposed to hit the microphone. But and then the other thing that I want to mention from a success standpoint is that so we definitely, and I have like a huge passion for helping same-sex couples for sure. But we obviously work with all families, single families, autologous families, man, female. But I think the other reason that we have success is because we will reevaluate the testing that was done or do testing that's more cutting edge testing that we have found through awareness of Dr. Victory finding that has helped huge success rates that are not common testing. So if we have an embryo transfer and it doesn't and a positive pregnancy test, we don't just say, okay, well, we have 12 more embryos. Let's look at this. What did we miss? Or did we miss anything and the testing is all perfect and it was just nature? Right. Or did we do this? Let's try this. We don't know. So I think that element of your thinking and bringing some of those tests that are now more popular. But at the time that he started them, I was like, what in the world are you thinking? And now those are the tests that we most commonly have success with later.
Because they don't always have 12 embryos, do they? And that really understanding what you can do differently and potentially change the outcome is really important for some people.
Well, and I think there's a failure on the part of the clinics, the doctors, to acknowledge the emotional trauma, the anxiety, some of the financial trauma that goes with this journey. And so I got a request from an agency to evaluate a couple and their surrogate who are working with a completely different clinic because they had failed 7 embryo transfers. And I mean, like, obviously I said, of course. And they said, how much would you charge? And I said, look, I'll just help them for free. Like, I feel bad at this point. But the reality is that I'm sitting there in my head thinking, who allowed 7 embryo transfers to happen?
just the trauma of going through that and the heartache.
But why would you not assess that and say, look, something's not working. What are we going to do differently?
can we
And
do different?
Why are we going to keep doing the same and expecting a different result, right?
Right. That's Freud's definition of insanity, right?
Of
Doing the
course,
same thing
of
over and over
course.
again, expecting a different outcome. And that's why that cookie cutter approach really is not who we are. So that's why we always wanted to kind of not only be at the cutting edge, but make sure that the patients understand that for me, and I say this jokingly, but it's really quite true. It's not a good look when your last name is Victory and you fail. So we always want to make sure that we are doing everything we can to achieve success for the patients. And so I'm constantly exploring new techniques, new science, new knowledge, whatever we can do to improve the success rate. So Lisa's talking about some advanced testing. We have a collaboration with a group in Greece. They can offer us some very significant testing that's very helpful. And we looked at a small study of the patients we had tried this on. So we had a group of patients that had failed 1 or 2 embryo transfers. We did this testing, we corrected for what was wrong, and 91% of them got pregnant in the next transfer. Right. So that's how you avoid that 7 embryo transfers.
Of course.
And they're asymptomatic. Like the testing is not for anything you would ever know that there's anything there. It's just another layer of testing that Dr. Victory found and then has proven to be very successful.
Yeah, because they put all their faith in you, don't they? They're and you have a responsibility to do the best for them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're all trying to do, isn't it?
But it's going back to but this isn't how everybody thinks. This is not how, unfortunately, the majority of the industry can sometimes behave. But having that personalized care approach to, we want to get you to that end goal. And if it involves looking into testing that's not commonplace, then I didn't know you've done that previously. And that's super interesting. Love that.
let's kind of put this relationship into context then, just by giving a bit of an understanding of the state of Canada and
what's going on.
What is going on and why are people waiting so long? You guys are at the forefront of it and dealing with it all of the time. Give us your kind of assessment of what's going on in Canada, what the wait times and just so that we're
For the surrogacy piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think
because to be clear, with the embryo creation, there's no issue
we
here.
have great donors.
We have no problem there. We're talking purely about the surrogate element.
That's right. Great donors, great agencies that help us achieve that half of this journey. And I think from a surrogacy perspective, wait times, if you want to chat about some of your perception.
Sure. So it is patient dependent, for sure. But there is no question that Canada has been a hotspot for a while. And because of that, there was a surge of patients that came in wanting surrogates. And because it's purely altruistic, it's more difficult to find surrogates. Now, admittedly, because of the fact that I am a bit more careful in what we do, I'm not willing to just accept anybody. And so a lot of clinics will. They'll ignore, for me, what are red flags, whether it's the BMI being too high or the patient having comorbidities or they're smoking or whatever the case is. Yeah, or 10th pregnancy, right? And so And so for us, in order to find a good surrogate who is going to not make people do 3, 4, 5, 7 embryo transfers, you really do have to be cautious. And so you're dealing with a very limited pool of surrogates and a very large pool of intended parents. And so one thing we really very quickly realized was we're going to need help if we're going to sort of satisfy the needs of our clients. And so reaching outside of Canada, it was an immediate option for us. And from a geographic standpoint, and I think from an ethical and from a legal standpoint, obviously the two that make the most sense for us were to go either to the US or to Mexico. We're very comfortable with the US programs. We have good relationships with several agencies there, but you have to be very well heeled to be able to pull that off. I always, sort of jokingly say, like, which of your kidneys do you want to donate? Because it's going to be incredibly expensive to do that. Whereas with the Mexico option, it's much, much less cost, and you're still getting that same quality surrogate, and it's still just as fast. So we love that. A lot of people are now looking even outside of North America, but there are issues with that. So we're a lot more hesitant to go to other places. You mentioned the Ukraine, Georgia. Obviously, those are no-go zones right now. Even South America, there's issues with violence and political stability. And so we're not really engaging in that. We're focusing more on places where we know there are established companies and agencies that have done it. They've done it well. They're comfortable with the process. We vetted it ourselves. And so that's why we felt great about the option of working with you guys in Mexico.
And what would you say the typical wait time is for a surrogate in Canada right now?
So it does depend to some extent on how you present yourselves. And language is often a bit of an issue as well. So, for example, if you're coming from the UK or you're coming from Australia, where you're going to be native English speaking, the wait time's probably somewhere between about 6 to 18 months. It doesn't take that long. If your personality is maybe slightly more closed, shall we say, or reserved, or you're coming from a country where the language is a barrier and there's constantly an interpreter needed and so on, that can take like 2-3 years.
So I just want to kind of just add one little piece to that. The reason that he's highlighting that is because in Canada, the surrogate chooses the intended parents, right? Yeah. So if they don't feel that they can make a relationship with you or even understand your personality, it'll take sometimes a little bit longer for them to choose you. Yeah.
No, I agree. And it's like that in the UK. UK is altruistic. It operates in very much the same way. The wait time, like minimum 2 years to be matched with a surrogate in the UK. So it's the characteristics of an altruistic destination. Yeah. And we see that all the time. So let's talk about Mexico City then, because we've scattered around the edges, but let's hit it head on. Lisa, like, you visited Mexico City. tell us a little bit, and we hear this all the time. So tell us a little bit, or first of all, what was your perception and view of what you were going to see just before the trip?
Yeah, so I'll go back and just remind that my background is very medical. I am a hospital nurse at heart. It's how I run things at the clinic. I think medicine should be a certain way, and people should be treated a certain way. So that was what I expect for people to receive when they're talking about, especially for me, my passion has always been labor and delivery. So before I went to Mexico, it was mostly because I didn't think I wanted to work with Mexico. So, because as I said previously, I don't feel comfortable saying to my intended parents that I have a relationship with, here's an option if I don't believe in the option. So, you can definitely see if I believe in something or if I don't based on how I talk or my facial expressions, etc. Yeah. So even in the operating room when all you can see is my eyes. But, so I went there thinking, I'll just be very, permission to speak freely. So I wanted to make sure. I thought cleanliness of the hospitals worried me a little bit. I worried about the state of the surrogate from a motivation standpoint, and not just motivation to help, but did she feel like maybe it was financially driven for good reasons? Because again, I'm a mom of four, I get it. I worried about the type of care that they would be getting when they did labor and delivery, the actual delivery of the baby. I wondered, would she have the autonomy to say, yes, I love these IPs, but I want to deliver my baby, and can you stay over there and I need my privacy? Those were some of my concerns. And then there was a concern around testing and screening because, as I said earlier, we have some pretty strict guidelines, and I've been lucky enough to, do saline-infused sonograms with Dr. Victory, and so I know what the images should look like. I know what his expected images are, and I also am responsible for the Assisted Human Reproductive Act accreditation, so I know what the government wants. So I had all of those pieces, and I did not think that we were going to meet those things to my standards.
And then you arrived.
Then I arrived. And I met two members of the team that I spent a lot of the time with who were amazing and informative, and I felt safe, which is another piece that I think is important. And I got to visit the clinics. While I saw the office, I think it's important that there's boots on the ground, that there are people there in the city, that they actually have an address. You can go there, talk to somebody, answer the phone, knock on a door. Similar to how we operate, you need to be accessible and available. So I think that was one piece. Visiting the hospitals, right before my trip to Mexico, I actually had visited a friend in LA and visited a spot. And so it was like a really hard follow-up from LA.
I didn't know this.
Yeah. And so when I got to the one hospital, because we visited two and two clinics, it was unbelievable.
Isn't it just?
Unbelievable. And, probably very similar or a little bit better than LA, the one I visited. Now, and let me confirm too, it was in like Hollywood, like Beverly Hills area. Like it was a nice place that I visited. So I think I was very pleasantly surprised. We toured the hospital. We toured the labor and delivery suites. I met the physicians, talked about the type of pain control they would have, the type of access to labor support. We even saw the labor and delivery suites, and we saw the suites where the IPs have their own end with doors that close, and the surrogate has her own bathroom. Privacy is not a concern. All of the care that they received was amazing. It was a very, very eye-opening experience.
I can vouch for the fact that my ears are still ringing from the rant that she gave me after she had gone there and told me how absolutely incredible it was down there. And even for Canada, because we're on a socialized system, I mean, nothing is fancy. It's not like the US or Mexico,
No,
right?
same as the UK. We're the same.
Yeah. And so, Lisa was in nursing heaven while she was there, right? She was really raving about how incredible it was. And I think that's again, super reassuring for me as the physician, knowing my surrogate's going to be well taken care of. My intended parents are going to be well taken care of. The doctors are competent on all ends, whether it's the fertility side or the delivery side. And I think that makes me be able to say, this is not just an effective financial or chronological option for our patients. This is a safe option for our patients. It's a good option for our patients.
I went, a little deeper than the nursing part of things as well, but I had the opportunity to interview the surrogates, and I interviewed 2 surrogates to find out how they found out about my surrogacy journey, what their intentions were, how they felt about the entire journey, what conversations did they have with their families, how is it, received by their families. I chatted about that. And then even more impressive than the absolutely beautiful, amazing hospital is your cell phone that you provide. So I definitely feel that over the course of a pregnancy that's occurs, naturally without surrogacy involved, you have rises and falls of crazy emotions and good parts and bad parts and all of these different things. And it is so important to have access to resources like social workers, like a group of people to say, I didn't think I was going to feel this. Is this normal? The fact that the surrogates get picked up for every appointment and brought to the appointment, they're not scared. They're not alone. They have a network of support that above even how much I was in love with the hospital and the accreditation standards and the SIS imaging on behalf of Dr. Victory, I had to make sure I looked at that. The support system there was extraordinary. It's unbelievable, that system. And, I'm sure that you've been doing this, so people may or may not know about the cell phone piece, but it's pretty amazing that they literally have access to what they need when they start this journey.
Yeah, and we wanted to give you total access. There was we've got nothing to hide, and that's what we planned for you. Is speak to our lawyers, speak to the doctor, go see the clinics, go see the hospital, speak to the obstetrician. We want you to see everything. I want you to go back as reassured as everything. Ask the questions. That nothing's off limits, because we feel we've built a program that is there to protect everyone. One of our guiding principles is that everyone's equal. Everyone deserves to get the level of support that they need to be successful on their journey, and that's kind of what we've built. And that's why it was important to showcase all of that and to show you and give you the reassurance that you can proudly recommend us, because we're doing everything we can to safeguard everyone.
And when we created the pathway, as you know, we've got a successful UK program and a program in the US, but we've always applied the various lenses when we're looking at the membership benefits for that member, so surrogate or intended parent. And we saw a lot of agencies in Mexico just doing things badly and not supporting these women properly. And, some will give birth in a public healthcare setting, but we didn't want that for our members. So we did go above and beyond with some of the membership benefits. And the cell phone is one of those benefits, that every surrogate gets a smartphone. So they can interact with their intended parents, because it's, smartphones and data can be an issue in Mexico City. So we took that problem and we found the solution. But also it gives the surrogate access to all of the educational resources that we have within our app.
It does, but it also gives them access to their insurance provider, so they can speak to a doctor, they can call an ambulance. Everything's done, and it's all there done for them. So that again, it's just about making it easy. It's really not that hard.
Your program is definitely set apart. There's no question. It's much more advanced. It's much more patient centric, and I mean patient for all the parties, the intended parents and the surrogates, and that's reassuring for us, because we're taking these little M babies and we're putting them into the surrogate. And then, we need to feel comfortable that everything that's going to happen from there is going to run smoothly. And so that we can say that, we've done our part, but the aftercare is I'm still on pins and needles until I get a picture with somebody holding a baby, right? And so it's so much easier when we know we have partners that are like-minded in wanting to provide the same level of excellence on the surrogate journey part of it that we do on the creation of the embryos, the embryo transfer, the scientific and medical part.
Even thinking about the surrogate who chooses to be part of this journey and the transportation that would exist for her to get to her appointments on her own. Yes, there's transportation, but there's parking, there's this, there's that. They might not have a car, they may use public transportation, whatever it is. Even something as small as that is so huge because they're picked up by a person that they know because it's the same person that they've seen the entire time. And one of the things too, because I did also interview your lawyers, but I think that, we have to obviously address this piece of it. There's also a lot of misconceptions, which I was worried about, but more because I didn't have any exposure at all of a person who came, delivered a baby. What are the laws like? Birth certificates, not birth certificates, all of those things, passports, all of that stuff. So I was very impressed by the lawyer team that you have, though. One who specifically is considered the expert in Mexico City for this exact act. And so she oftentimes is the one giving advice for what to do and how to do it. And I think informing RIPs in the beginning that the origin of their country matters for starters. So start there and know that law, and to have a lawyer on your team who also understands that, and an immigration side of things as well. It just covers that whole circle for safety, because it's amazing. And the surrogate is the star of this show. I mean, let's face it. At the end of that, though, we're building families that we need to make sure are a family and go home and yeah. So I think the legal part of your team kind of closes that loop comfortably.
Yeah. And I think there's that misconception that Mexico impacts your exit. Well, actually, Mexico doesn't, because there's a very clear process for exit on Mexico. What impacts the speed and how you exit the country is your returning country's protocols and regulations. And like there are other episodes that are going to talk more specifically about the exit process, so you can watch and listen there. But what's fundamentally is like, Mexico doesn't impact that. It's your home country. And I think sometimes when people hear, "Oh, Mexico, how am I going to get out?" or they've seen all these horror stories, but ultimately that's what we need to be focused on. And we as an organization, that's one of the first things we look at is, how can you potentially exit the country? Because it's a big part of how people perceive and a big worry and anxiety for people, if they were to consider it.
Surprising how many still don't start with that. It's all about, let's get you signed up, let's get you on a program where we're like, no, hang on a minute, where are you returning to, and let's just fix that first. And is it possible?
Right.
And then
it's about mitigating risk, no matter what country of origin you're from. Mitigate the risk, know what you need to do from your area, from where you live, and then know where the country where your surrogate is, know what those rules and regulations are, and stack the deck so that you're well prepared in advance, and you're working with people in a good faith from the beginning, because they know their information and your information, and then you meet at the end a little bit more seamlessly.
Yeah, sure. So, Doctor, let's talk specifically about a surrogate traveling from Mexico City. So that's one of the options with a hybrid, isn't it? So that a surrogate, you'd start the process within Mexico, you would be matched with a surrogate in Mexico, and our match time currently is 3 months. We say 3 months, it's a little bit under, but still 3 months is much, much quicker than a lot of destinations. What's involved from a clinical point of view, and what do the IPs need to consider when looking at this hybrid model, and how the surrogate will be managed throughout that process?
Sure. So certainly from a preference standpoint, we'd love for the surrogates to come to us. They can either fly to us directly, because there are flights to where we are directly from Mexico, or they can fly to Toronto and then hop on a very short flight back to us, or they can fly into Detroit and then it's just a 30-minute car ride to us. So there's a lot of different ways to get to us, which make it really easy. generally speaking, we need them there one day before and stay the day of the transfer. So probably about 2 nights. And then they can return home. It's very, very easy. It's safe. People do it all the time. We have surrogates within Canada who will fly in the night before, do the transfer, stay one day, and then go back. So this is really no different. So the travel component's actually fairly easy. You do need a visa to get in, but we can issue a letter saying this is for medical reasons. So that's quite easy to get around. And so that's certainly kind of the way we would prefer to see it done. Depending on what sort of package clients choose with us, they may want to ship the embryos to Mexico. And then I've actually spoken with the Mexican doctor there. He's really outstanding.
Oh, you spoke to Jose?
I did.
He's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
He's
Great guy.
amazing.
Yeah.
Phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
Dr. Gutierrez.
Yeah.
There's a podcast with him as well. He's amazing. I
Yeah.
love his approach. But again, very, very aligned, right?
Yeah, very much so. Great guy, obviously knew his stuff, very comfortable. And so, again, if clients want to have the embryo shipped, shipping embryos is easy. And people frequently worry about their embryos. And so I'm always telling them, like, it's pretty much going to take a nuclear blast to destroy one of these tanks that we're sending there, right? Like, it's this very solid metal shell. And then that goes in this plastic container that literally nothing would destroy. And then that's going inside a truck. So you would need to have some kind of detonation for something to happen to your embryos, right? So it's very easy. It's very safe to move embryos back and forth. And so I think clients, again, we love offering people choice. And they have choice again. And it does depend to some extent on which package they're selecting with us, if they want a live baby guarantee or they don't. But ultimately, we are willing to work with them to kind of achieve what they're looking for.
Yeah. And I think just know, whether you're listening, watching, is that we manage that whole interface with the surrogate. Our member of our team will travel with the surrogate. We'll manage all of the protocols, the consents, and the surrogate will start endometrial preparation in Mexico City. That will be, managed by you, doctor, in terms of the protocols and the medication. We collectively will manage all of those components to make sure that there's a smooth process. Everything's considered and everyone's getting what they need out of it. But then also the communication with the intended parents, because that's equally as important, so that they understand what's going on.
Yeah, I did also visit the gentleman that if the surrogate is going to travel to us for the actual transfer, we met with the physician and so Dr. Miguel showed me all of his images, because I was thinking, okay, if he's going to run like a satellite clinic for us, I need to see what his images look like,
Right.
how to make sure
Quality.
what's the quality.
Yeah.
And he was just lovely and very knowledgeable, and you feel good, or I definitely feel good knowing that if there is a surrogate we are managing her protocol and that's our satellite. I mean, their images are like our images. And that is a really good feeling to know that when the surrogate arrives, we can trust what that endometrial thickness is, and we can trust those imaging that he sent us to be good quality.
Yeah. And you mentioned visa, doctor, and so we'll manage the visa for them. We'll apply, because sometimes the surrogate might not have a passport, so we'll get the passport for them. The passport process in Mexico is really, really quick. They can often get it the same day. So there's no worries there. The visa process, one of our team just got a visa, so that took about 3 weeks. So, all of those things, we're testing those processes. So I think, and also ultimately at the heart of everything we all do is that how do we safeguard? How do we make sure that surrogate is protected? She's looked after, and that whole process is managed. Our team will be with her. She'll stay at an approved hotel. There'll be transport there. So we have considered everything to make sure everyone's safe. We want her to feel comfortable. We want her to be relaxed. We don't want her to be stressed out. That's the whole reason why we're doing the whole process from end to end. And I know that we're coming out to Windsor soon to kind of see the clinic and get all of the protocols in place, because we have intended parents from you guys who are matched with surrogates. So it's not going to be long before we start to get those first ones through. And I have every confidence, because of what we've built and how we work closely, that more and more are just going to follow. It's going to become a more and more.
Yeah, and we're actually we're now promoting this idea of doing these hybrid programs actively. So we do a monthly session where we invite all of our intended parents to join on a Zoom. And then we are talking to them about what their options are. And we're starting now to, or at least planning to bring on, the various agencies such as yourselves to come on and talk about what you can offer. And the interest is through the roof. It's amazing, right? Because we have so many families out there that are waiting, and they are tired of waiting, and they want good care, which is what we've committed to them, but they also want it faster. And so now that we have these relationships, now we can provide that. And that for me is so reassuring, because that lets me go home at night and say, this is a good, thing. We have something smooth, it's safe, it's effective. We're not having to gouge the patients. No one's giving up a kidney. I like this, right? So I really am very happy that we are able now to facilitate this more effectively for people, knowing that all of the partners involved have the same goals, aspirations, and kind of thought process or ethical mindset that we do. And that's so reassuring for me, because the cookie cutter medicine thing is very bothersome. And I feel like it's really, as you said at the beginning of this, like it's becoming the norm. More and more fertility centers are being bought out by venture capital, private equity. Yeah. And all they want to do is make more money. I mean, here in the UK, every single fertility center is by.
Yes, I think we've got 3 left now, haven't we?
It is, and even as much as that the regulator's concerned about how this VC culture is changing the dynamic of patient care, and patient-centric care isn't there anymore. Not in all of them, but certainly in a lot of these, because the focus and the drive is not patient care.
No, it's money.
It's money.
Yeah, it's profit, and it has to be, right, because they're paying top dollar to buy these clinics or
and they want an exit.
Companies. Right. And their goal is to make even more.
It's not easy, I have to say, as a nurse, and to advocate for our nursing team and our whole team back home at the clinic. But it's not easy to give patient-centered care. It actually requires a lot more organization, a lot more communication amongst our team, consistency of patient flow. When I assign a patient to a nurse, I met with that family first, and I try to personality match, and I try to see who might be well suited for their journey. It definitely takes a lot more work to do it that way, but I can't imagine doing it any other way.
It's the right thing to do, isn't it? It's the right thing to do.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we have this saying, and my team, I must drive them insane because I talk about it all the time, but like when they ask me a question, and like, what's the right thing to do? Like, we will always do the right thing, because that's the approach.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like, you take a deep breath because you know what the right thing means, and you're like, okay, but you just follow. Sometimes it's the harder path, right? But it needs to, in the end, when you lay your head on the pillow, you have to feel good about what you're doing.
It's the difference in buying a pasta sauce out of a jar or making one yourself.
Well, we know how I feel about that.
I just get another pasta analogy into it.
Yeah.
And it's would you use that jar, or would you let's put the hard work in and let's make it how mama makes it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'm really not sure why you're saying it's that difficult. I mean, who doesn't work 100 hours?
I know we thought that we would get more of a work-life balance. I think we work longer and harder than we go.
We do, but the thing that makes it easy for us, it doesn't feel like work. And I love what I do, and I love the impact we're having. And I also think I'm going to be able to tell my kids that we did amazing work, and I know they're going to be proud of us for it. So for me, that's what drives us to do it.
It's measurable.
Yeah.
It's measurable. And when you see the smiles and you celebrate those wins, or I'll send you a text and so-and-so delivered or whatever, we genuinely celebrate that as a team. It's great.
It is. And also it's a hard environment to work in, because it's so emotional and it means so much to so many people. And I think it's very pressurized, isn't it? I feel the responsibility heavily with all of these people, particularly when we're taking them to places like Mexico, which is not necessarily their comfort zone, and they're putting all of their trust in us to get them to that end point. Yeah. But we have absolute confidence and know that it's just the right thing to do, and we're going to get them there, but we just have to keep going. But that doesn't mean to say that it doesn't take its toll on us. And I know that you guys must feel that too, because it's a heavy responsibility.
Well, that's what's great about this, in that you care and we care. And again, when you look at what's happening in the fertility world right now, the care is dropping as the finances become more, important. The corporate is rising and the care is falling. And the fact that we still care, yeah, you work damn hard. We work hard. There's long hours. It's constant. I'm never off my cell phone. This is probably the longest I've been off my cell phone in years. So, you're never away from the work and the needs of the patients, but like, it's so rewarding knowing that you are providing them with what they won't get somewhere else. And I love that, right? Because I know that we as a team are just making people feel good about the experience. And it's so important because it is a traumatic experience. Like, fertility is a loss of control. Whether you're straight, whether you're gay, it doesn't matter, right? You're losing control because there's so many variables that you don't have any ability to manage or alter. And so to restore some of that control to people by having them know that their team is there for them, that their team is going to do everything possible, it's just so kind of comforting. And I can go home at night and put my head down and say, you know what, I did everything right today. We did good things for people, and we're working with good people that are like-minded. So it's hard to find that. It's increasingly harder to find that because there are not that many like-minded people out there.
It's a vulnerable population. Just on this trip in Dublin, I got an email, and it was a great email from a set of IPs that I've been working with, and they sent me like a celebration little note. And so I screenshotted it and I sent it to Rahi, except I forgot that it was 2 a.m. But he responded, "Oh my God, Lisa, that's amazing. I'm going back to bed now."
Yeah.
But when I say we celebrate those positive moments, we genuinely do as a team. Yeah.
So did the follow-up text where I fired you not come through?
That's all good.
Yes. Well, I did not get that one.
Good. I'm glad you didn't get that one.
Yeah.
Well, look, this has been a really thought-provoking, but also really enjoyable podcast. It's like I said at the start, we wanted it to be really conversational. I think it really has been. I think we've covered some really good elements, and hopefully give the listener or the person watching a real sense of what they can expect from this hybrid model. And again, this might not be for you, right?
It's not, but listen to it. Hopefully you've enjoyed this episode. And the one thing I know with Eddie of having to look to my left and ask, but if anyone, that follow-up time is needed, or you have any more questions about the program, I know there are people in this room now and that have been your hosts today that can answer more of any additional questions if you've got them. So thank you both for being part of this
Thank
podcast.
you for having us.
I think people are going to find it really interesting, and it's great to kind of get some time with you, Doctor. And I know I've spent some time with you, Lisa, but it's great to get some time with you, Doctor, and just
when he's not on his phone,
build that relationship. So Michael. So my favorite bit of that whole podcast really is about. I think you can see the warmth, the connection, and I think Doctor, you mentioned about we all care, and I think that's and I think it should be easy to see how very much aligned we are in making sure that people get that end-to-end support, and we're not just different partners who don't really care about that integration.
For sure. Yeah. Apart from the food analogy, my favorite part would be the fact that this gives an authentic, a credible, safe alternative for people. And this is going to build so many more families, but do it properly and use all of our experience to craft that. And I think that really came through.
Yeah. So don't forget, there's another episode available. Just go over to wherever you get your podcasts. You can find it on Apple, on Spotify, Google, or on YouTube. If those of you watching on YouTube, hi. But we have our new app launched as well, where you can also find our podcast.
Yes. So head over to the App Store or to the Google Play Store and search for My Surrogacy Journey, your journey app.
But if you need any more information, then you can head over to our website, or you can find our social channels. And our website is mysurrogacyjourney.com.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for watching and listening. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.